Hey there, welcome to Blockhead, the podcast where cartoonists talk comics and just about everything else. My name is Jeff Grogan, and I'll be your host for the next hour or so in a series of conversations with comics creators about their lives, their work, and comics. So sit back and enjoy. Welcome to another episode of Blockhead. Today we are talking to Jens Styve, who you may or may not have heard of. Depends on how many comics you follow on Instagram. Jens is the wonderful Norwegian cartoonist behind the equally wonderful Dunce. And the cause of this particular episode or this interview is the publication, the brand new publication of Jens's collection of comics translated into English for the first time, Dunce, Arctic Tales, burning up the charts right now on Amazon. And I'm telling you, you gotta, if you love comic strips, you gotta get this book. This is a terrific book, and I am not kidding, no hyperbole. I really love this comic strip, and I love everything about it. I love the characters, I love the humor, I love the way it's drawn, I love the stories, the whole bit. It's great, and I'm going to say this over and over again in this episode, but I'm not kidding. It's a great book. It's a terrific collection. If you're not following Dunce, you should on Instagram, Dunce Comic, at Dunce Comic. It's a strip about an unmarried, unwed father and his son and their friends and their dog Brago. And you'll recognize situations, even though this is ostensibly taking place in Norway. It's very relatable, and I think Jens brings some enormous talent, first of all, and charm and wit to his wonderful comic strip. So go out, get it. You don't have to take my word for it. Will Henry of Wallace the Brave has a quote here on the back: Dunce is a good comic strip. Better yet, Dunce is a superb comic strip. Scott Kurtz says, so jealous of his cartooning style, Jens is a master. And Linear of Macanudo says, Dunce is definitely my favorite strip of late. Thank you, Norway, for giving us Jens. He provides a humorous filter on life. And, okay, if my word's not good enough, I think the words of those cartooning masters should send you to Amazon right away and pick up this collection. Dunce, Arctic Tales by Jens K. Styve. And that's you'll find it all in the show notes. I'll probably put a link to it on Amazon in the show notes, and you can just check it out there. There'll be other stuff in the show notes as well, as there usually are, but definitely check that out, okay? This is exciting. I've been following Jens's work for a long, long time. He was one of the first people I encountered when I first started posting my own stuff on Tapas, which I didn't do for very long. There's a point at which I just can't keep up, and I know there are people who are really good at this, and I think success in this business nowadays has to do with being able to keep up the social media stuff and to keep up, the multiple places of posting, etc. And I know on Comic Lab they talk about it all the time, and they've got it all worked out, those guys, and here's the plan, and this is what you got to do, and I get it, and I listen to other people too who and they're really good at it, and geez, I can never seem to get a handle on it, and I don't know whether it's it's a matter of carving out the time. I've got a job, and the job keeps me really busy, and then cartooning keeps me really busy, and my life keeps me busy, and then trying to figure out how to do all this stuff, well, I'm just terrible at it, and I've always been terrible at it. So I never kept up with Tapas, and I never kept up with Webtoons, and I never kept up with any of those places. But Jens started, that's where I encountered his work. When I first started posting, it was either Plastic Baby Heads or Jetpack Jr. or one of those, and I was searching out other strips there, and I found Jens's work, and I started following it there, and then I've followed it more or less ever since. And he and I had been planning to do an interview now for a long time. Actually, when this podcast first began, but we never got around to it. And actually, I'm kind of glad we waited, because it coincides now with the publication of this wonderful book, and I can help publicize it a little bit. And I really do hope that you'll check it out, because it's just a wonderful strip, just a wonderful comic strip. What more can I say? So I wonder if you guys have any more luck posting on multiple platforms. I've never quite figured it out, and sometimes I just chalk it up to my age. I'm like 10 years too old, really. I was 10 years too old. It was the next generation that really came up and embraced web comics before I really, was clued in. I was kind of clueless, and I never really figured it out, appropriately. Thus, there lies a tale. But it's, it's an ongoing tale. So I'm not complaining. I'm just stating a fact. It's just the way it is. And I'm not proud of my incompetence, I have to say. That's not pride you sense. It's not even bewilderment. I know myself well enough now to know that there are certain things beyond my grasp, and that is one of them, I think. So, so be it. There are things at a certain point in your life, you just accept certain things about yourself. You learn to live with them. And I've learned to live with my limited organizational skills. Let's put it that way. There's some things I'm good at, and some things I'll never be good at, and I think that's chief among them. How I got to be chair of an art department, well, that's at one point in my life. I no longer am. I was, and how I got through that with skills such as mine, or lack thereof. Well, that's a story. So, why don't we just get to the interview, hey? So you're going to notice that I mispronounce Jens's name multiple times through this, and I don't know why. It's pretty simple. Jens Styve, and but I do mispronounce it, and my apologies to Jens, who may be listening to this, and I hope I got it right this time. So, without further ado, myself and Jens Styve in conversation. I'll see you on the other side. Hello, Jens Styve. Welcome to Blockhead.
Hi, Geoff. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, man, I'm so excited to have you here. It's been, let's see, I've been following your work for, I don't know, a long time now. I think I originally came across it on Tapas, maybe. Is that where I might have?
Oh, yeah, that's many years ago, yeah.
Many years ago. That was the first place I saw it, but it hit me then. I loved what you were doing back then, and that must have been like 2013, 2012, something like that. And since
maybe 14, because I had this very long break from comics, but I came back around 2014, so must have been around that time.
Around that time, and around the time you were doing Dunce at that point.
Yeah, well, it was something quite similar. It was more like a diary, I guess. Like,
okay.
It looked kind of like a strip, but it was more like my sketchbook diary.
Yeah, whatever it was beautifully drawn, and it was really funny, and I really loved it, and I followed it early on. So I've been aware, and as soon as social media started cropping up, I started following you on social media and whatnot. And I'm putting the cart ahead of the horse here. Why don't I tell folks why you're here? And it's a really exciting moment because you've got your first book out in English, available on Amazon.
Yeah. It's finally, yeah.
Yep, a collection of your wonderful comic strip, Dunce, called Arctic Tales by Jens Styve. And for anybody who's looking for it, and that's JENSSTYVE. You can find it on Amazon. This is I got this book. I know you sent me the PDF, but I love to read physical copies.
Yeah, I'm glad you got the real thing.
Gosh, man, it's not only is it it's I think it's probably my favorite comic strip of, I don't know, the last 5 years. It's right up there. There's a couple that
Thanks, thanks.
stay up there. You know, Will Henry's work is up there. Tahid Bondia.
Yeah,
You are just right there with the two of them. It's just
thanks.
fabulous stuff. I laughed
Thank you.
my butt off, but I also just love the characters, and I love your drawing. It's just fantastic. So anybody,
Thank you so much.
folks, rush out and get this book, because if you love comic strips, this is definitely for you. Great characters, great drawing, great humor, um, all the way through. Wonderful stuff. And this is just the tip of the iceberg from what Jens has got, right? So, congratulations on the book.
Yeah, thanks. It feels great to finally have something to show in English. I prefer to have my readers read my comics on paper, actually. So that's a big relief after doing this for 7 years, more than 7 years now.
Seven
So
years
finally to have some printed material for English readers.
it's so important. I'm so glad. I mean, it's been available in English on Instagram and elsewhere, right? All this time. I mean, I've been reading it for some time.
Yeah, yeah. But since I do a daily strip, I make so much content, so I don't have time to sit and post everything online. And also, well, it's kind of painful, to just keep these platforms,
Mm.
try to keep them happy, and
Oh yeah,
to
right.
do whatever they demand there all the time. I get so tired of it. So
Mm.
yeah, I have my newspapers. There are around 30 newspapers now,
Mhm.
and the book collections in Norway and in France and in also now in Spanish. I was in Mexico this winter
Uh-huh.
and launched a book there. So yeah, just to have this stuff read on paper. That's what I prefer.
So, for those who don't know, Jens is Norwegian, right? And
Yep.
so his work is published primarily in Norway, in Oslo, and elsewhere. And Jens, why don't you talk a little bit about the history of Dunce? What's the concept behind Dunce, and how you got started, and where it is now?
Yeah, I live actually 2 hours flight from Oslo, so I live in the far north of Norway,
Hmm.
and I used to be like middle of nowhere in a way, but right now it's very popular with tourists from all over. Everyone wants to see the Northern Lights these days.
Uh-huh.
So actually it's pretty crowded right now. The last few years, and especially this winter has been crazy. Yeah, but it's in way above the Arctic Circle.
Mhm.
So we have these 2 months of darkness in
Wow.
the winter, and we have 2 months of midnight sun in the summer. So you have these big variations of seasons, and the winter we can go skiing here for around 6 months.
Wow.
So very long winter, and
Well, so many
so
people are
it's
heading up there, I'm sure, because there's no snow anywhere else in the world anymore.
yeah, we have a lot of it. So especially this year, so it is a special place, and if you stay outdoors a lot, then you learn to love it. I guess this nature and this environment is has become part of my comic.
Hmm.
And the main character, at least what used to be the main character, is the dad is
Hmm.
pretty much like me. He has the same name as me, and the boy, his son, is called Gustav, and he's around 9, and they have a dog called Brago, who is pretty much like my own dog.
Well,
Very much like my own
you,
dog.
but you don't walk
He's
around wearing a dunce cap.
I don't. No, I don't.
Yeah. What was I mean, what was the rationale behind that? I mean, you're doing something that references yourself, if not actually tells your own story, and you decided to give yourself a dunce cap.
Yeah, well, a lot of stuff with my universe, my comic universe, is sort of random. It's not very planned. Like the best friend of the main character is a fish, so there's not something I planned. It just happened and stuck. stuck with me. So all the other characters in this universe are humans mostly, except for the dogs. And then there's humanoid fish. And the dunce cap, it's just something I did very early when I did something autobiographical. I drew myself with the dunce cap because I don't know, I felt I should be ashamed or I should done something stupid, or it's like a punishment for myself. It's not common in Norway, but I saw it in the American comics when I grew up. This,
Uh-huh. You said it was like a punishment for yourself. Is like drawing the comic a kind of punishment, or uh
uh, actually, no, it was more like complaining that why am I doing this? It's stupid. It's so hard to. Yeah, it was like whining. Yeah,
uh
yeah, yeah. Feeling
yeah.
sorry for myself. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
So
it's
so it just stuck with me, and
mhm.
when I became a dad, and I came back to comics after 15 years away, this son had to have a little dunce cap too. Of course, it was.
Mhm, yeah. Gustav has a little dunce cap too.
He
Uh,
does, yeah.
y-
Unfortunately, yeah.
it's not reflective necessarily though of who the characters are. Their foibles are no worse, I think, than most people's. But it's their responses that are pretty funny. And your drawing of them is just masterful. I mean, the expressions on these characters' faces are incredible. The postures, they're all just wonderful. And
Thanks.
I just as I go through the book, I've gone through it a couple of times now since I got it, and I only got it last Friday, I think. I've gone through it a couple of times and just marvel at the cartooning. The dog, Brago, he's drawn so beautifully. His character design is so funny, and his expressions are so revealing. It's incredible. Brago is he's one of my, I mean, I love all the characters, but Brago, I think, might be my favorite character.
Yeah, yeah. He's really been stealing the show after he came into the comic, and I did actually tell the story when he came in and was a puppy, and so he's been growing with a strip, and he's stealing the show all the time. So
And he's not Snoopy, which is hard to do when you're doing a comic strip. Come up with a dog, right, who is a companion to the main character, who's not Snoopy-like. And, he's anthropomorphic in the sense that he thinks and speaks, but he's not, his personality is clearly distinct from Snoopy's personality. He revels in
yeah, I
dog.
think so.
He loves being a dog.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And he's like I think a theme in my comic is nature versus technology,
Hmm.
and I'm very interested in technology and then also much in nature. So I think this collision of these two are like in the core of my interest and also in my storytelling. And Brago is perfect for representing the nature because of his instincts, and he's not hiding any
Hmm.
of his instincts. It's very clear on him.
In
So
fact, he's encouraging Dunce and Gustav to follow suit. As a matter of fact, eat some garbage. It'll.
yeah, yeah, yeah. He can't see the reason why you should ignore or push away your instinct. So
Yeah,
yeah,
lick some yellow snow. It's okay. You know,
yeah, yeah, yeah. He
right?
loves it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's great. He's hilarious, and we've all seen our dogs do those things. And Brago breaks out and talks about it. Why
yeah, yeah,
he does what he
yeah.
does,
Yeah.
which is entertaining. It's very, very, very funny.
And also the boy Gustav, he's
Mhm.
9. He's also been stealing the show more and more.
Yes.
So I didn't regard it as a kids strip when I started, but I think I thought it was just for people like my own age. But it's turned more and more into a kids friendly comic, and I'm really happy about this English book that it's targeted more to
Hmm.
young readers, but also, of course, anyone, but also for the kids. So I'm excited to see how that works on the young readers and English
And the book is
kids.
doing well, right? The book seems to be selling well on Amazon so far.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's been great. Just been there for a week, and I'm so happy I got these great reviews and feedback. And yeah, now I get to speak to you.
Yeah, it's wonderful, and I'm excited about it too. I mean, we've meant to do this for a long time, and this is a really great opportunity to do it.
Yeah,
Besides,
yeah. To finally have something out in English, that's a good timing.
yeah, it is. It's very nice, and I'm so happy too because I'm trying to get back to the podcast more so than last year. COVID sort of knocked the podcast off its rocker, so to speak. But
I've
um,
been listening to this for many years, so
yes, yeah,
yeah.
I know.
Hmm.
And I appreciate that. Somebody, it's nice to know a cartoonist who's as great as you are is listening and enjoying the podcast.
Oh, that's
Um,
really inspiring.
well, one of the things in regard to what you're talking about with nature, there's this whole wonderful section about this plant at the back of the book, which I really enjoyed because I think anybody who has ever tried to take care of a plant kind of knows what Gustav is going through with this plant.
Yeah, yeah.
What inspired that? Was it just simply happenstance? You came across a plant that needed to be watered, or
Well, when I introduced the kid, the 9-year-old kid in my comic, I knew that I didn't want him to be like a Bart Simpson or like a
Mhm.
Calvin and Hobbes, like the rascal kid
Yeah.
or Dennis, or I want because I have 3 kids and they're so smart and clever and well behaved, and
Mhm.
yeah, that's my impression of kids these days. They are actually pretty nice. So I wanted this kid to be like the kids around me that just knows a lot and interested and curious and also wants to do good. So
Hmm.
when he's getting this plant that he has, his best friend is a girl who lives right next door, and she has this plant that she's not taking good care of. His instincts tell him that he's needed here to save this plant and to care for it, and so I guess it's about this broader theme of taking care of something, and responsibility and doing good. And when he learns that this monstera plant is from the rainforest,
Hmm.
he wants to save, like, do his part of saving the rainforest, and so it gets even more important for him. So I love doing this long sequence with the monstera, and I'm also very proud of how it turned out. And
Oh, it turned out
it's
great.
uh it's almost 70 strips, so it's definitely the longest sequence I've done in strips, and it's hard to find other comic strips too with a longer sequence than that, I think.
Yeah, yeah. Very few really. I mean, and each it's important also for folks to know that each strip reads individually, but they all contribute to the larger story. And
Yeah, yeah, that's like, that's the impossible
yeah,
of what we're doing. It's you have to make entertain someone who just sees the one strip also. So it's almost impossible, but yeah, it's part of the struggle and part of the fun with working with this medium.
yeah, and you did it. You pulled it off so well. I as I was reading through, I was just like, it's one of those things when you're reading something you're really enjoying reading, you can't put it down and you just keep reading. And that's what happened with this entire book. And the story with the plant is fresh in my mind because I was reading it just the last day or so. And I love I'm not going to give away the ending because the ending's, I thought the ending was really poignant and really interesting the way you turned it around and made a comment, I think, in some sense that suggests that even when we try to do good, there are consequences. And
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
unintended
Yeah.
consequences.
That's maybe why I'm really proud of the sequence, because it has a theme and it has a message, and it's stitched together so that it is a proper story. And
Mhm.
when before I started doing comic strips, I was a bit skeptical to the strips because I said I want to tell stories, not jokes.
Yeah.
And then when I started challenging myself by trying to think, could I do a newspaper strip? I wanted to see if I can still be more like a storyteller and do it in this format. And what I've learned is that this newspaper strip medium has this amazing quality that people the readers, they come by every day. They just pop in and see what happens in your universe, in your fictional universe, and every single day. And that's a blessing in a way to have this way to tell stories. I have the fictional universe that is running. The time is running the same speed as our lives in a way, but people just pop in once every day and see what happened today. So I think that's part of the joy of making comics from strips for me, and also I guess for the readers.
Yeah.
But also then you have the book collections, of course, and I think it should work well also there to read the whole thing. But what you read yesterday or today was like 2.5 months of strips. So
Sure.
if you follow the newspapers, then it takes 2 months to follow this story.
Right.
And that's really great.
It is, and it's a joy that I don't know what the newspaper industry is like in Norway, but here you're probably well aware that newspapers aren't what they used to be, and they've been supplanted by online news sources. And that, I mean, when I ask my students here at Adelphi who reads a newspaper, well, not 20-year-olds, none of them do. Unfortunately, none of them even follow them online, but such as 20 years old. But nevertheless, the joy of reading a comic strip, and I grew up with this, you grew up with this, that joy of reading a comic strip, like, for example, Peanuts, who would go into, I think the longest sequences Schultz ever did were like 2 weeks or something like that. But you'd follow the storyline every week, or if you were reading an adventure strip like Dick Tracy or one of those strips, you might read a storyline that went on for months, for a couple.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And that was always exciting because it was like a little present you got every day. Check in with those characters.
But they were more like they couldn't stand alone. You had to read all of them, I guess.
Well, yeah, sure.
Like the Phantom. One day he pushed someone, and the next day they fell over. So
exactly, yeah, very good, right. You had to make sure you read them. You couldn't just read one and check in again 3 days later.
Yeah, and then the newspaper were messing them up and
Yep.
skipping someone or printing them twice or in the wrong order.
One of the challenges of writing for the newspaper in a comic strip like yours then is writing a punchline, a joke that makes sense, but also like cluing the audience into the overall narrative at the same time that you're making an isolated segment. And
you have to repeat what's happening, and then not boring the guys and people who read it in book collection. So yeah, it's almost impossible.
It's almost impossible. It's like walking on a tightrope. It really is a very tricky balancing act. So you were mentioned before that you had been doing comics, then you were away from comics. Can you give us like a sense of what you were doing before you were away, and then you went away for a long time, and tell us how that happened and how you got back into it?
I grew up with mostly French comics, but also some American comics, and I wanted to draw something like Asterix or Gaston Lagaffe, but I couldn't draw it because it was so delicate. It was so crafted, but that's what I dreamt about when I was a kid, and then as a student, there was this in the 90s. There was this wave of American underground comics, of course, Crumb, but also Peter Bag's Hate and 8 Ball by Daniel Cloves, and that made a really big impression on me, and I wanted to do underground comics, and that's what I did since I was, I don't know, 16, 17. And then we even started our own little publishing company in Norway, just publishing our own comics. Also, Brego is complaining. I had to let him.
Oh, okay, sure. Brego from the comic strip is broken into the real world here.
Yeah.
I have dogs.
Yeah, I saw you got a new puppy.
Oh yeah, yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we have a new puppy. It is beautiful. It's wonderful. We're having a heck of a time. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, but go on.
So in the 90s there was the Fantagraphics, and also of course the Sandman, the Bone and everything happening then.
Yeah.
It was very inspiring. And then around 2000 I moved to the far north, because I used to live in Oslo, and that's where most of the Norwegian comic artists are. So I moved to the far north, and there was no comic scene at all here. So I just, I felt I had done all I could in the comics, so I just quit. I put it away, and I thought I will probably never make comics again, and worked as a graphic designer for 14 years, and suddenly just came back and realized that I had actually been missing it. And then I wanted to try some different format, not do my old tricks over again. So then I started studying comic strips and seeing, testing myself. Could I do something in this format? And it also, at that time, I had this daily diary comic that I did just for myself, and I started publishing it online. And I didn't realize it in the beginning, but it was very easy to make it into a strip because it was like just 4 panels on a page. So I just had to move the panels in a row, and then it was a comic strip. So, and then there was a comic strip competition in a big Norwegian newspaper, and one friend who is also an editor, she said, you have to send your autobio diary to the competition, and I won this competition, and the prize for winning was 4 months of publication. So then doing a daily strip for 4 months, then you're in. And I've been doing it since then, and these 4 months became many years in that newspaper. So, and then I got some more newspapers, and yeah. So
How many years has it been now since you won the contest?
yeah, I started in 2017, January.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been more than 7 years now. Yeah, it's 5 book collections in Norway. It's number 6 is coming this year.
And it's a daily strip? You do 5 days a week or 7 days a week?
6 days. Yeah, we
6 days.
don't have a Sunday. We don't have a Sunday strip tradition here, probably because the newspapers normally don't have a Sunday edition. So,
Oh, that's interesting. Oh,
so just 6, but
six.
it's 230 in a year or something.
Sure, it's a
240.
lot of
Yeah.
strips.
So
Yeah,
it is a lot.
it's a lot of strips. So in the book is only a section of that. So there'll be more books in English, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Way.
I have at least 5 books that I can publish this way. So yeah.
Then are you making your living then as just doing Dunce now?
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
It is.
And so you said 30 newspapers, and these 30 newspapers are all in Norway.
Some in Sweden
Okay.
and some in Finland.
Okay.
And yeah, the rest of them are in Norway.
Okay.
Yeah, but it is the same problem here. The newspapers are dying, and there's a lot of pessimism around all this newspaper business. So, so it sort of feels like, well, I've been thinking from day one that this is just on borrowed time, if you say that in English. We'll see how long I can keep doing it, but for now it's doing good.
It's doing good. Not to get too to pry really, but it's interesting, I think, from a point of view of just, cartoonists doing business. There's a syndication or a syndicate that syndicates your strip. Is that how it works in Norway, like here?
Yeah, it is sort of a syndicate. It's an agent who
Oh, okay.
does all the deals with all the newspapers and distribute it for me. So yeah, I
Okay.
don't have to
So it works
talk
like
to the
that.
editors. Yeah.
And your income from the strip itself is your primary source of income, or is it the books now?
Yeah, it's a mix. It's these things, books and newspapers. And the third thing is anthologies. In Norway, we have several comic strip anthologies in the shops.
Okay.
So, and my strip is in 2 of these. So every month there is
Ah,
24 of my strips in
uh-huh.
these monthly anthologies. So I
Uh-huh.
have 8 pages, 4 in each of them. So that's also an income. So
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't think we have anything similar to that, which is kind of funny. That's such a good idea.
yeah, it's a nice, very beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So if this was a video,
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, because I
I
might.
could show it.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
Uh,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Okay. And that collects
There's one.
A variety of strips that are published in Norway.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Every month.
Yeah. And okay. And is there just one agent who works for all of these strips, or is it multiple agents?
Actually, yeah, it is one agent. He's also started his own publishing house and
Hmm.
publishing comics. So
Hmm.
he's been really important for the whole strip industry that we actually have here. So when I travel to other countries, to festivals, and speak to people, people are a bit surprised that we have this comic strip industry still here in Norway, but we do. There are a handful of people who make a living of it
Yeah.
still.
Well, it's one of those things that, I think you're the only Norwegian cartoonist that I follow and I'm aware of. And I'm so happy that I am. I mean, I know that people listening in it's going to sound crazy. I sound like a crazy fan, but I am a big fan. I'm a big fan, and I can't say it enough. I love your stuff. And I love the book. And I love the way you draw and all of it. It's just a wonderful comic strip, and it captures everything that a great comedic comic strip really should have. In that way, I see it in the direct line from Schultz to Watterson to Styve, I mean, there's a line there, not only in terms of subject, but also in terms of quality and in terms of kind of the way in which you are naturally suited to working within this medium. So it's all there. And so I hope people will search it out and discover it for themselves, because I think people who love comic strips will love this. It suggests to me too that there's more in Norway to look at, and I'm surprised that I haven't seen more Norwegian comics in the past, and I hope that I do. Translating it is a question in my mind, is like the books are appearing in France, you said, and in Sweden, and in Spain now. And so you've got to go through this process, I'm sure, of must be a difficult process translating it into different languages.
Yeah, it's well, the French and the Spanish editions, I just trust someone to do it because I'm not good at any of those languages. But the English version, I translated myself, and then I had it proofread by
Hmm.
an American friend, so I would know that it's better than my own English. So I think that worked well. I haven't heard any complaints
No, I think it works very well. I think one of the
so
things
far.
when you're writing jokes in any language, right? But when you're writing jokes, there's a rhythm and a pacing and a timing, right? And so you're sitting there and you're trying to finesse the words in such a way, and the rhythm of the words, the choice of the words in such a way that it gets the humor across in the best way possible. And it's like writing poetry in your awareness and cognizance and sensitivity to the ins and outs of language. And so I was really surprised in that way at how seamless it seems. Not that I've read it in Norwegian, I haven't, but in reading it, it seems like it's always been written in English. The
Oh, that's
jokes
good to
work,
hear.
yeah, everything works really perfectly in English, and that's a big surprise.
Yeah, I think that's much because of my friend who proofread it, because my English is, as you can hear, not great. But the guy's called James Duncan, and he's, I think, added this rhythm and poetry, just
Correct.
his gut feeling,
Uh-huh.
coming with good suggestions, and I always trust him. So,
Oh, very well. It's great to
hmm,
have somebody on your team that
yeah,
can help you with that matter, because it works really well. The punchlines fall the way they need to fall, and the stories are revealed the way they need to be. So, kudos to your friend as well as
yeah.
to you for
Hmm.
doing this. And so, okay, so what's your process for the strip? And are you working traditionally or digitally?
Yeah, when I started doing the strip, I was very convinced that I would do it on paper because I had been working, as a graphic designer for 14 years. I was very happy to get away from computers and to sit and draw. So that's what I did for 150 strips or something. And then somebody borrowed me an iPad, and yeah, Procreate
Mm-hmm.
had arrived, and I realized that, wow, this would save me so much time and time was really the main problem I had at that time, and I guess still is. So I just had to switch to the iPad because of the pressure of the deadlines.
Yeah.
But when I did, I tried to find out how to make it look as organic as possible, and also to match my drawing style. And I got to know a person online who makes brushes for Procreate,
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah.
he took it as a challenge to make my drawing style as a brush pack. So you can actually find it online. You can buy it
Oh,
for
I want to
a
get
few
it.
dollars. Yeah, you can buy it. I
I
think it's
can,
$5 or something.
where can
If
I
you
get it?
just search for the Dunce brushes
Oh,
for
the Dunce
Procreate.
brushes. Okay,
Yeah.
I absolutely will.
Yeah. So
Because
he did a great job, and yeah, I think it looks still pretty
oh,
organic, and I managed to keep all my deadlines for 7 years now.
that's great. Well, Procreate changed everything for me too. It was funny. I was never going to move over from paper to
Yeah.
Procreate to iPad. I was just never going to do it.
Yeah.
I wasn't happy with my scanner and
Hmm.
scans I was getting, and so I was looking for a new scanner. And my wife said,
Oh yeah.
why do you need to do? Why don't you just get an iPad?" And I was like,
Yeah.
"Well, one, they're expensive, and two, drawing digitally, blah." And she said, "Try it." So I picked up the Apple Pencil. I started drawing on it. I was like, "Oh, this is awesome! This is unbelievable!"
Yeah.
I couldn't
It
believe
is.
it. And
Yeah.
boom, And I think it was around the same time. I think it's been 7 years now that I've been working with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah. I really hate scanning. That's the worst. I feel like I'm dying every time the scanner is
yeah,
slowly doing its job.
I
My
know.
life just ebbs out of me.
I know, and it never translates
Yeah.
lines correctly, and it's always a little. So when you're finding that you can actually draw on an iPad, it was just just a big game changer for me in
Yeah.
every way, and it's so cool. You would never know looking at your work that you were using Procreate. I mean, I kind of wondered, not because of the look of it, just because you're doing a daily strip now, and
Hmm.
it just makes
Yeah.
sense. So you do the strip, you write the strip, you draw the strip in Procreate. Are you coloring in Procreate also?
Um, I get help with coloring.
Oh, you do. Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So there are some people in Lithuania who do it,
Oh, I see.
and I think they do it really well. They have understood how I want it, and yeah, they are good at imitating my own coloring style. So it's I'm happy with it. I wish I had time to do it myself, but I
Yeah, too
don't.
busy. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
imagine.
Hmm.
It's not possible. Are they printed in the newspaper in color or in black and white?
Yeah, color,
In
all of
color.
them.
Okay,
Hmm.
that's nice.
That's the standard. Yeah.
It's a
But
standard.
it's actually I do love when I read Calvin and Hobbes. I would prefer to read them in
You
black
like
and white. So it would be nice to make a book one time with black and white versions
Oh
too,
yeah.
because it can be sometimes a little bit noisy with all the coloring,
Uh-huh.
stealing too much attention maybe.
And your line is so beautiful that people could just
Yeah, it would be nice
revel
to
in.
make black and white. I would love that, but
I
I don't know
see
if my any of my editors thinking the same.
I see behind you on the wall there are some what I think are dunce strips that are in black and white.
Yeah, that's original strips. Like two of them are like ink
Okay.
originals. Yeah, that's the first one.
Yeah, and that looks pretty good from here. So
Yeah,
I'm imagining, a book in black and white would be wonderful. Or
yeah, I
maybe
think so.
you could do a book where you do the front part of the book, the majority of it's in color, and then you have a section in the back maybe that's
Sure, yeah. And now
something.
my Amazon books are self-published, so I could do whatever I
You,
want.
you do have a yeah.
Yeah.
Although it's funny, I can't imagine you going without a US publisher for very long. I mean, I honestly think in terms of my comic strip reading experience, this is one of the most joyous comic strip reading experiences I've had in quite some time.
Hmm.
And I can only think that we're missing out in the US by not getting this to more people because I think it's just a joy. It's got, it revitalizes a medium and an approach, I think, via a very traditional vehicle. It's both traditional in its roots, it's in the way it tells a story, the way it tells humor, the way it conveys humor, your drawing, all those things. There's nothing radical about them. However, your approach feels so fresh and new. And I don't really know that there's anything here that feels both new and is light. And when I say light, it's like it's not to suggest that the subject matter is lightweight or because it's not. We get involved in personalities, and the personalities have insecurities and fears. The character that is ostensibly you. I'm remembering now him working on the Christmas cookies and
Hmm.
what the feelings and the problems he was going through and how his son Gustav responded to that and all of that. All that's stuff that's relatable and it's
Hmm.
real, and your strip gets to that, but it does so in a way that's so fresh and vital that
Hmm.
I can't imagine that a United States publisher or syndicate wouldn't be interested in this. And if there is, I know there are a couple people from King Features and from Go Comics who listen to this show, and
Hmm.
if you guys haven't picked up on Dunce yet, you're missing out. You should reach out to Jens because this is a wonderful piece of work that more people should see in the U.S. And I hope.
Thanks. Yeah, it's no secret that that I my ideals in comic strips, they are very much Americans. Like Peanuts and the Calvin and Hobbes, of course, is
Mhm.
something I study, and Cul-de-sac is a big favorite for
That
me,
cul-de-sac is great. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
of course Pogo and Crazy Cat and the
Hmm.
Matt Groening
Oh
books
yeah. Yeah,
of
Matt.
old, and yeah, and also like you mentioned, Wallace the Brave and Crabgrass. I think they are playing in the same playing in the same playfield
In the same
as
sandbox.
me, and I'm really happy that they exist because yeah, it's hard to find comic strips that are character based and storytelling based, like what I try to do myself. So yeah, I think I'm really glad that I have something in English now to show, and it's taken too many years. I thought I would be able to find a publisher, but I've had no luck with that
What
so far.
Finding a publisher, that's a lot of work in and of itself.
Yeah, it's not something I do, but there are some agents or people who push it. So
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. And
I
glad to
have
hear
been
that.
talking to both syndicates also, and
Oh, good.
yeah, and they like it, and but I I think I'm picking up some pessimism there
Ah,
also, at
well,
least
maybe it's more the state of the industry.
regarding the newspapers, and yeah,
Yeah, more the state of the industry than anything, I suppose.
yeah. But I think it would be I would prefer to publish on like Go Comics or Comics Kingdom instead of Instagram, because I really I'm having trouble with these social media platforms. I
Yeah.
just don't like them.
Oh,
So it's okay for promotion, but I don't want to feed them with all my storytelling.
is that because interaction or because you just
Yeah, they dictate how you're supposed to behave, and then they don't pay you anything for it.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, they just push you around all the time, and you don't earn a penny
Yeah,
of it.
yeah, you don't earn anything. I know it's
So why should you keep up with all the
right.
bullying that they
Yeah.
do?
Yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. Yeah, I understand completely. So going forward, then, do you see another Dunce book coming in English anytime soon? I mean, because this is just a chunk of, well, actually, tell me before I get to that question, are these strips mostly recent strips, or they come from the whole period, the last 7 years, or
Yeah, it's taken all from the last book, the fifth book.
the fifth book? So it's
So yeah, just to make everything very confusing, I started publishing the fifth book. So it would be even worse if I put a number five on the spine, but I didn't do that.
right,
But
right.
it was because I didn't want to publish from start because I want to show people what I make right now. So I just went straight on with the newer stuff. But I have one more year of strips
Mm.
done. So I have a book that will come out this year.
Oh,
So I
another.
could make, yeah. So the next English book could be this next book, or it could be older stuff. I'm not sure. But I think I want to maybe visit a festival, at least in the UK, but maybe also in the States,
Mhm.
and have a table and show the book and meet readers,
Yeah,
and then yeah, that would be a good time to make to publish the next one
sure.
after just maybe doing these two festivals, one in the UK and one in the US. Hmm.
So when it comes to the strip now, I know you've got you said three children,
Yeah.
and so your character in the book has one, and your character's best friend is a fish, a humanoid fish. How is it you came to and your son Gustav has I don't know what her name is. His best friend is the girl who lives next door.
Siri, yeah,
Syria. Okay.
yeah,
So she's his best friend. And who am I? And there's Brago and I'm forgetting somebody.
yeah. It's the co-workers and the kids in school, and yeah.
So how is it you decided, like, for example, one thing that you're obviously, happily married, and yet there's no wife for your character in this book. And I'm curious as to why that omission and why you chose characters that you did, why one child instead of three children, etc. How did those decisions?
Yeah, it's only 4 panels, so you don't have much. There's not much space in it,
Yeah.
so you have to compress it. And my wife actually said quite early on that I don't want to be a comic character, so that was easy.
Okay, that makes
So
sense.
it had to be a divorced main
Yeah,
character.
I could
Yeah,
see that could be a problem. But
yeah, but also I didn't really want to make like relationship stuff.
Yeah.
Because yeah, that's not something I wanted to do. And three kids, I guess Gustav is a mix of my kids and also very much me when I was a child.
Ah,
So
interesting.
yeah, it's a good mixture.
And then the best friend, the fish, which his name escapes me too. What was
Børge, yeah, I should maybe
okay.
find an English name for him, but I kept the Norwegian names
Uh-huh.
so far.
And so where did that come from? That idea. And is it based
With the
on
fish, actually, it was something I did when I moved from Oslo to the far north of Norway because there's a lot of fish industry and
Mhm.
yeah, traditionally everybody lived of fishing in
Yeah.
this northern Norway. So it was just in my autobio comic that I did at that time, just to show my friends in Oslo that yeah, I have a friend up here also. He's a northern northern Norwegian person, so of course he's quite fishy looking.
Well, it's great. He was Krampus at Christmas time. Uh,
Yeah, he's very interested in this folklore, all
uh-huh. Yeah.
kinds of
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
mythology. Hmm.
Yeah, Norwegian folklore shows up a little
Yeah,
way
yeah,
in the strip. And that's kind of interesting too to learn something about that. But for all of that, it's very relatable to an audience in the US. I mean, there's nothing in here that threw me off or made me go searching to Wikipedia or anything. So
yeah.
it was
Actually,
very
I had to cut out some strips because of the page number. It's 200 pages here, and I had maybe 250 in this Norwegian collection. But so I cut some strips that were maybe too adult jokes or
uh, uh,
funny for the not so funny for kids.
okay.
And I also skipped the sequence. I don't know if I needed to do that, but I was a bit afraid because I know you Americans are a bit easy to upset. So there was a before Christmas. Gustav has this toilet roll theater. He
Okay.
he he puts up a show every year with toilet roll figures.
Okay.
So he that year he made the gospel. Is that what you call it?
The gospel. Okay.
Yeah, with toilet rolls. And I thought, well, Americans, they are very
Religious.
religious. Yeah, so I
Yeah,
shouldn't
okay.
make jokes about the gospel. So I left those out,
Yeah, if you
unfortunately, because I like that sequence a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah,
actually, I'd like to see the sequence because I'm not quite so, irreverence of that kind does not
yeah,
disturb me at
yeah.
all. I think if your
So
icons are not strong enough to handle satire and ridicule, they're not very strong.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But I
There's
wanted it to be a book that people would give to their kids. So
yeah,
so
sure.
I thought that would be maybe be smart to keep that one out. But there is a longer Christmas story in the book. So
Yes, there is a
it's
long.
20 pages or
Yep.
something. So
Yeah.
that's the first time I got to do this special Christmas special
Yeah.
that we have actually lots of Christmas comics in Norway. That's a tradition in Norway that everyone goes out and buys comics for Christmas.
For Christmas.
So yeah, so these Norwegian strip artists, they all make their own Christmas specials.
Hold this
So
up.
that was my first one,
Oh
and
yeah,
it's readable, even though it's normally was printed a bit larger.
is it
So
printed larger?
yeah, these Christmas specials are quite big here in Norway.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it is a wonderful story too, and I really enjoyed. I've enjoyed the entire book. I really enjoyed this Christmas story, and I love the way it tied itself together in the end. It's a great little story, with a little. I love the little nod, and I think this is a conscious nod, to Peanuts. And
Probably, yeah.
yeah, let me just
I
pull it.
do that quite a lot.
Yeah. This is there we go. I don't know if people can see that, but we have the little tree up at the
Oh
top.
yeah. Hmm.
Was reminiscent of Charlie Brown Christmas, obviously.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hmm.
And it's a beautiful little moment in
Yeah.
the story. Um, but I love that
Yeah, I
story.
was a bit struggling in early on because how do I take the strip universe into longer stories? And longer stories is what I used to do, and but then after doing strips for many years, it was hard to get, especially with these characters that were I had just done them in 4 panels, and
Mhm.
then so I had to do quite a lot of work with it, and also the main character who is Mia is kind of grumpy and it's not very Christmas spirited, but so I actually used that in the story that he's more grumpy than Christmassy, and I think it turned out good. And Gustav is of course very eager about Christmas, but dad is just negative about it, and I think these characters they do care a lot about each other. They love each other, but they never say it, and they try to not show it. But I think it very often shines
Well,
through.
certainly in this story it did. Yeah.
Mm,
I
mm,
mean, in Gustav's response, uh,
mm.
to his father. Yeah,
Yep.
it absolutely does shine through.
Mm,
And for people who are adverse to sentimental Christmas stories, it's not sentimental. At the same time, there's a great and it's funny. There's also something very heartwarming about it. So
mm.
it's a really it threads that needle very well, I think, and people will enjoy it a great deal. I'm pretty sure. It reminds me that Dennis the Menace, and many comic strips in the U.S., but particularly Dennis the Menace, was well known not only for the daily comic strip that Hank Ketchum did and the Sundays, but also for the comic book. There was a comic book published for, I don't know, 20 years or so of Dennis the Menace stories that were longer Dennis the Menace stories. I don't know if you're familiar with them at all.
No,
Um,
not the longer ones. No.
yeah, there's a couple collected books out, that feature the work of Al Wiseman, who was one of the comic artists who was fabulous. And a lot of people love him as much as they love Hank Ketchum, uh, for a very kind of different approach to the drawing. Jaime Hernandez is a big fan of Al Wiseman, as a bunch of
Hmm.
other people. And the stories are great. They flesh out the world and they enable Dennis to go running mad through situations. And as a kid, I really loved seeing those because you love
Hmm.
these characters you see every day. But with Dennis, particularly, you only got one panel and
Hmm.
every day, and because it was a one panel strip,
Hmm.
and you wanted to know what the rest of that world was like. And so what
Hmm.
you've done in Dunce is it's similar to that in that
Hmm.
sense. It fleshes out the world, and we get to move around in the world. We get visions of the world, that aren't always available, right, through the strip itself, except sometimes you do these one panel strips that sort of step back and show us the vista and everything, a little.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so it's great for me to learn to know the universe in a broader way, and also for the reader, I guess. So yeah,
yeah,
it's been good with these Christmas specials.
yeah. So,
Hmm.
where do you see Dunce going now in the next couple of years? How do you see it developing? You have any
Yeah,
concrete
I
plans in mind, or is it?
I try to sort of regard it as a study. I feel like I'm a student of comic strips and comic storytelling and drawing, and so I try to learn stuff all the time and develop. I don't I've tried not to work on repeats, just doing more of the
Mhm.
same. So I hope it has some direction still, and it's very much about the characters and the relationships, and it's been a privilege to get to develop this as I make it in a way, because yeah, I could spend 5, 7 years planning it and then start doing it, but I've been able to just could do it and
Mhm.
finding out on the way what works and what is not correct in this universe. And I see sometimes myself when I see older sequences that I wanted to try something and I see, oops, it's wrong. It's not something. It's not the direction. It's not the. So I just back out of the idea and yeah. So it's a very much scientific project for me
Mhm.
to yeah find the direction and find the flow for the whole thing. And I feel very responsible for the characters. Yeah, more and more. So I have to take care of them. And
Uh,
Brego is 9 now,
uh-huh.
and I told my editor that when he dies, I need to share the pain, so he will die in the comic as
Oh,
well.
no, don't tell me that. Don't
Yeah,
tell
and
me
she said,
that.
yeah, that's what my editor said too.
Oh, I don't want to
What
know
if
that.
Snoopy had died in the early 60s? That would
No,
be
don't do
a
that.
very bad idea. Yeah,
Don't do that to me. No,
no.
no, I'm not sure
So
I
we'll
can
see.
forgive you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand the impetus because you love Brago, you love your dog.
Hmm.
I'm gonna start crying.
Yeah. No, it's
We,
too painful.
it is painful. We lost a
Yeah.
dog
Hmm.
last year who was very, very dear to us.
Hmm.
Our Aussie Zook,
Hmm.
Zucchero, and she
Yeah.
passed away.
Hmm.
And after a period of time of being ill, which was hard too,
Hmm.
and it's just heartbreaking,
Hmm.
just so heartbreaking. And Brago is so alive in the strip, he's so alive.
Yeah.
And I've come to love Brago, so much in the strip that I can't even like when you introduced another dog in the comic, and I enjoyed that other dog as much. I thought that dog was a great character too, and I know you could do another dog that would be great. But I love Brago. He's so dog, he's so great. And
Yeah.
no, don't do that. Oh my gosh. I'm no, just don't. Don't put me through that.
Yeah. Okay.
I
Yeah.
I
So
really love
I will
this
tell my
character.
editor that you agree
Yeah,
with
no,
her.
bad
Hmm.
idea. Bad.
Yeah. Hopefully he will live for at least
Forever,
5 years more, so I
forever.
can think about it.
Yeah, I wish Sue could lived forever, and I
Mhm.
just wish their lives were longer. Um,
Yeah, it's too short.
it certainly is.
Mm.
Oh gosh, now I'm all choked up. Um, it's true, but anyway, one of the things that strikes me in doing a comic strip, when I was doing a comic strip on Go Comics, one of the things about the process that I really enjoyed that's not possible any other way is that you're working every day. I was doing 3 days a week. I think you're doing six, so it's even more for you. But there's a, a Zen-like meditation in the world that you're creating, in the development of your storytelling, your knowledge of the characters, the organic growth, and it's like I don't know how to explain it. I can't find the words for it because it's you're immersed in this process, and the process
Mm.
that is a kind of self-generating process. Once you get off that treadmill, it's very different,
Mm.
step outside of it. But when you're in it, there's a process of thought and growth and logic, I think, as well as surprise, but all of those things that come out of the self-generation of continuing the process. Have you found that there is something unique to this process in the growth of your work in the strip?
Yeah, yeah. I think I understand what you mean, and I feel very much the same. It's really a bubble. You're in a bubble, and I create so much, I produce so much that it's hard to really remember what was I making last week, what have I started this week. It's just because it's so much all the time, and if you have some idea, well, the Monstera story was really well planned. It was 70 strips. It had to have a really good spine, like storytelling wise, and I had to know that it was possible to tell like one strip at a time. So that was really well planned. But now I'm doing more like sequences of 5 or 8 strips. And uh, last week was an possessed desk at work with some what you call it, exorcism stuff.
Oh, wow.
And this week it's a holographic teacher, like
Oh,
stand-in for, I don't know what you call it, stand-in for the teacher, like a
okay.
hologram.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
And you just have to go with it and have to make it work. And
Yeah.
that's what I do this week. And I just had to, yeah, and I think it's
Yes.
going to work. It's even going to be quite funny. I hope so.
I'm sure it will be. Um,
Yeah.
the premise sounds funny. But how far in advance are you working from publication?
Oh, no, the strip that was actually printed today was handed in yesterday. So it's pretty bad.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
you are working day to day. So you've
Yeah, I have been like up to 2 months ahead, but
Mhm.
these days I'm really behind.
Oh
But
no.
it's I'm waiting now for the colorists, so they will send me stuff for a week. So then I will have at least a week advance. But yeah, it's
Oh
pretty
my.
bad. Mm.
That's oh man, I feel for you. You must feel like pressure right now to get off this podcast and go to work.
Well, it's evening. It's 10 in the evening here. So, but
So
tomorrow morning I have to be
up and at 'em.
ready for it. Yeah, and that's something I noticed when I started doing strips and getting to know other strip artists. It's like a really tough sport. You have to be exercising and sleeping enough and eating healthy, and
Hmm. Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
because if you don't function well, you don't need to go to work. You have to be sharp.
Yes. And are
Hmm.
you working at home all the time? Is that where your studio?
Yeah, I do have an office that I actually love to do to work in, but since I have Brego at home, he prefers that I work at home. And I'm pretty easy to yeah, he's having this power over me. He decides what I do.
I see. Okay.
Mhm.
Not your wife or your kids. It's Prego.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I would be using the office much more if I didn't have this dog.
Uh-huh.
He doesn't like the office. It's too small for him. So
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's great.
he likes to move around. Yeah.
Is he at your feet now?
No, he went out. He left me.
Oh,
He got
okay.
tired of this
And
conversation.
I think I've seen Brago in a couple of you posted a couple things on Instagram where you were skiing.
Hmm.
I think, right? You had a camera, a body camera or something, and you were skiing.
Hmm.
I'm not, did
Yeah.
you do that? Yeah. And was Brago with you in
Sure.
those?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. So I think I saw him in that. Um,
Yeah.
what a wonderful companion. It's
Yeah.
great.
He's a great friend. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Hmm.
nice to have somebody, like that with you all the time.
Hmm.
That's kind of what comes across in the strip as well. Brago is that integral a part of the family.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm really soft hearted when it comes to animals, and yeah,
Mhm.
almost too much. But also, yeah, he like speaks to me. I
Uh-huh.
can I I imagine that I understands exactly what he says all the time, and my family just says I'm putting too much into it. But yeah, he speaks to me,
Is he more your
and
dog?
that's no, he's as connected to all of us, but I guess I'm the one who yeah, I'm the one who struggles when he's home alone and feeling sorry for him all the time, and yeah,
Uh,
too soft. Hmm.
okay. That tells us a little bit too. It's very interesting to know. Well,
Hmm. Yeah,
I think, Jans, this has been a great conversation. It's wonderful to finally connect with you and,
yeah, it was
you
super
know,
nice.
to learn about, just to talk about this wonderful comic strip that I cannot recommend highly enough. Dunce Arctic Tales is available. on Amazon, and I encourage everybody who's listening to this podcast to get it right away, because you'll just love it. You will absolutely just love it. And I'll bet you a bunch of cartoonists are going to go searching for those Dunce brushes. I know I am. As soon as I can find them, because the drawing in this, which is not something that we've talked a lot about, but the drawing in this is just exquisite. It's so great. It's great cartooning all the way through. It's expressive. Character designs are wonderful. The character expressions are wonderful. The gestures, the postures, everything. It's like, for a cartoon lover, this is like a gourmet meal.
Thanks, Geoff.
Yeah, and I really do mean it. That always leads to another question. Is Dunce, when, I know you're a graphic designer, in terms of your drawing, is Dunce what you naturally draw like? Is that what you were always driven to drawing like? Or did you at one point or another draw in more naturalistic style, or do other kinds of illustration?
Yeah, I do practice the craft of drawing all the time, and I go to the live model drawing every week, and so I practice the craft. But when you do a strip, you need to have a effective style, not just to keep the deadlines, but also for the readers to easily read it in the small format. So
sure.
So, but it is very much the style that I've done most of my work in, the more cartoony style.
Yeah, and going back to when I first encountered your work on Tapas many years ago, that I recognized it, and that connection from then to not to belabor the point, but again, I really appreciate you being on the show. This has been so much fun, so great, and so enjoyable to talk about this wonderful, wonderful comic strip and wonderful book. And I really do. I hope it does so well, and I hope it finds wider distribution in the U.S.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. All right, Jens. Take care.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed that interview, and and I hope at the same time that you enjoyed that interview, you bought the book and you've got it, and you're sitting there flipping through it, reading some of your favorite Dunce comic strips at the same time that you're listening to the interview. Or better yet, you listened to the intro, you decided to wait, you bought the book, you waited for it to arrive, book has arrived, now you're sitting there comfortably in your chair, you've got Jens's work in hand, you're flipping through these wonderful pages and looking at that fine line work and beautiful coloring and hilarious situations, and listening to how it all came together in this interview with Jens Styve. Anyway, I really do hope you go out and get it. Just not just because Jens is a pal and I want to support him. It's also because I want you to have a great comic strip book to enjoy, and so there you go. I want you to have a good time reading a comic strip, and this is a good time. So, well, next time on Blockhead, the great Dean Haspiel will be here. Yep, Dino. You know him from mainstream comics. He's worked for a multitude of publishers over the years, done some great work for both and for a number of places. And he's got a brand new Kickstarter starting on February 27th. So by the time you hear this, Dean's newest Kickstarter for the Red Hook will be up and running. It starts on February 27th. I will put a link to it in the show notes. Be sure to check it out and come back in a week from this episode, or maybe 10 days, for an interview with Dean Haspiel, and we'll talk about all things Kickstarter and what he's up to. We'll talk about his work from last year, COVID Cop, and Billy Dogma and Jane Legit, which was one of my favorite comics. Actually, both of those comics were among my favorites from 2023. So I'm really excited about this interview, and I'm really excited to sit here and chat with Dean, because he's really interesting artist. He's involved in a lot of different stuff, not just comics, and I think this is just really exciting. So Dean Haspiel will be our next guest on the next episode of Blockhead. As for me, I'm working on my latest opus, Donut and the Cheeseburger, Race for the White House 2024. It is a political satire, if you didn't catch that. And it was a successful Kickstarter in January. It's going to be printed in probably April. Who knows if people enjoy it enough, if it looks good enough, I may keep going, and there might be a second issue. So you might, if you missed out on this one, you might be able to get in on the second issue. I am going to make it available, I think, if I've printed up a couple of extras, on my Etsy shop, Comics Printworks, and where I've got all my comic stuff, Captain Daiquiri Jones and the Space Rockettes, Green Screen, and whatever else I'm working on is there and available, and you can get to it from jeffgrogan.com, and the link that says shop, I think it says shop. So you can pick it up there, and you can look for Donut and a Cheeseburger sometime in April, or you can follow me at Green Screen Comic on Instagram. That's Green Screen Comic, or Grogan Geoff on Instagram. Either one of those will do. That's where I'm posting my work as it comes out every week. I'm doing about a strip a week for that comic, and I don't know, there just seems to be so much material to draw from every week, and so who knows, I may keep going for the entire year. Because you just don't know at the end of November and into January of next year if we'll have a democracy anymore, or we'll have freedom of speech, or whatever. Who knows what's going to happen, particularly if you take a critical view of at least one of these possible administrations. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what April brings, and see how it turns out. I'm kind of excited about it. I love printing on newsprint. I love doing the old newspaper thing. I love, obviously comic strips and that whole world, that whole tradition of newsprint. Inky newsprint. Love that stuff. And I bet you do too. So anyway, keep tabs with me. Follow me on Instagram. Follow the comic. And if you're into it, look for it on Etsy, and I'll keep you posted if there's going to be a second Kickstarter for a second issue of Donut and the Cheeseburger, Race for the White House. Okay, well, did I tell you I got a new puppy? My wife and I, we got a new puppy, and his name's Jasper, and he is keeping us really busy and creating chaos, as puppies are wont to do, but it's fun chaos. It's loving chaos. and it's brought some new energy and life into our lives, and that's always a good thing. And so we're thrilled to bits about Jasper. And wherever you are, I hope your life is filled with light and joy and love and happiness. And really, I hope the best for you. And I'm so grateful to all of you who come back to listen to this show. And it's great to have you here. And I hope you're enjoying it. And I'll keep it going for as long as I can. So anyway, that'll do it for today. And as always, folks, thanks for listening.